The daughter of actor Tommy Lee Jones was found dead in an upscale hotel on New Year's Day. According to TMZ, paramedics were called to the Fairmont Hotel early Thursday morning for a suspected overdose.
For decades, Tommy Lee Jones played men who never broke, cold, controlled, unshakable. At 79, that image shattered in a single phone call. On New Year's Day 2026, while the world celebrated fresh beginnings, Jones uncovered something that shattered him. What followed wasn't just a father's worst nightmare. It was the beginning of a story wrapped in silence, missing answers, and a truth Hollywood quietly hoped would never surface. The phone call that shattered everything. It was 2:52 in the morning on January 1st, 2026. The Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco was filled with guests celebrating the new year. Champagne corks had popped just hours earlier. Laughter echoed through the hallways, but on the 14th floor, something was terribly wrong. A hotel guest walking down the corridor spotted a woman lying motionless on the floor. At first, they thought she had passed out from drinking too much, but when they looked closer, they saw something that made their blood run cold. Her lips had a blue tinge. Her fingernails had changed color. She was not moving. Hotel staff rushed to the scene and began CPR. They called for an ambulance. The 911 dispatch audio would later reveal the chilling words that described what responders found. Code 3 for the overdose. Color change. The woman on the floor was Victoria Kafka Jones. She was 34 years old, and she was the daughter of one of Hollywood's most legendary actors. Paramedics worked desperately to save her, but it was too late. Victoria was pronounced dead at the scene. According to witnesses, she had been celebrating New Year's Eve with 3 or 4 companions. Reports would later claim she had been using substance to ring in the new year. Somewhere in Texas, on his sprawling 3,000-acre ranch, Tommy Lee Jones received the news that would destroy him. His baby girl was gone. The family released a brief statement through his representative. "We appreciate all of the kind words, thoughts, and prayers. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time." But behind those carefully chosen words was a father who had spent years fighting to save his daughter from herself, and the world was about to learn just how hard he had tried. A father's desperate battle to save his daughter. What most people did not know was that Tommy Lee Jones had seen this coming for years. In August 2023, nearly 2.5 years before Victoria's death, the 79-year-old actor walked into a Marin County courthouse and filed papers that revealed the private nightmare his family had been living. He was petitioning for a conservatorship over his adult daughter. At the time, Victoria had been involuntarily hospitalized. According to court documents, she was considered a danger to herself or others. Her father's filing painted a devastating picture. He wrote that Victoria was engaged in life-threatening conduct. He described her cognitive and physical decline. He stated that she was unable to appreciate the consequences of her actions. But perhaps the most heartbreaking detail was a special request he made to the judge. Tommy Lee Jones asked that neither Victoria nor her mother be notified about the conservatorship petition. Why? Because he feared his daughter would disappear once again. Think about that for a moment. One of the most powerful men in Hollywood, a man who had won Oscars and commanded millions of dollars per film, was standing in a courthouse, begging a judge to help him save his own child. And his greatest fear was that if she found out he was trying to help her, she would run. The judge granted the temporary conservatorship. For a brief moment, it seemed like Tommy Lee Jones might finally be able to protect his daughter. But in December 2023, just 4 months later, Jones himself dismissed the case. Court records showed he cited unnecessary fees and costs as the reason. What really happened behind closed doors, we may never know. Did Victoria convince her father she was getting better? Did she promise to change? Did he simply give up hope? What we do know is that without the conservatorship, Victoria's spiral continued. In February 2025, deputies in Napa County responded to a 911 hang-up call at a residence. They found Victoria and another person in the middle of a domestic disturbance. At some point during the confrontation, Victoria's palm had struck the other person in the face. 2 months later, in April 2025, she was arrested again. This time at Ceja Vineyards, where her husband worked. Deputies noted white residue on her tongue and blood coming from her nostril. Victoria admitted she had been using substance. Then came June 2025. Another arrest. This time for domestic battery after she slapped her husband twice during an argument at a luxury resort. The fight had reportedly started because of her continued substance use. She pleaded not guilty to all charges. A settlement conference was scheduled for January 20th, 2026. Prosecutors were reportedly ready to offer her a plea deal. But Victoria would never make it to that court date. She died 19 days before she was supposed to appear. To understand Tomy Lee Jones, you have to go back to where it all began. Back to the oil fields of West Texas. Back to a childhood that would shape everything he would become. The violent childhood that made him who he is. Tomy Lee Jones was born on September 15, 1946, in San Saba, Texas. He was an 8th-generation Texan with Cherokee heritage running through his blood. His family had been in Texas for over a century, but there was nothing romantic about his upbringing. His father, Clyde C. Jones, was a former cowboy who became an oil field roughneck. The family moved constantly, chasing work from one West Texas boomtown to another before finally settling in Midland. What happened inside those homes was far from the Hollywood glamour Tomy Lee would later experience. Multiple biographical sources have confirmed that young Tomy Lee endured a good deal of physical abuse at the hands of his father during his turbulent adolescence. The boy learned early that the world was not a safe place, that the people who were supposed to protect you could hurt you the most. His parents' relationship was equally unstable. Clyde and Lucille Marie Jones did not just divorce once. They divorced twice. They married, fell apart, reconciled, and fell apart again. The constant cycle of hope and disappointment left its mark on their son. And there was another tragedy that haunted the family. Tomy Lee had a younger brother, born 3 years after him. But the baby died in infancy. Just like that, Tomy Lee became an only child. There would be no sibling to share the burden with. No one else who understood what it was like to grow up in that house. His mother worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. She was a police officer at one point, a school teacher at another. She even owned a beauty shop. The family clearly struggled financially. When Tomy Lee was a teenager, his father took an oil job in Libya and wanted to bring the family overseas. Tomy Lee refused to go. Instead, he worked relentlessly to win a scholarship to St. Mark's School of Texas, one of the most elite prep schools in Dallas. He chose to stay behind, to separate himself, to survive on his own. The boy who was beaten by his father would grow into a man that Hollywood called the grumpiest actor alive. But perhaps that famous scowl was never about being difficult. Perhaps it was simply the face of a man who learned at a young age that showing vulnerability only got you hurt. From Harvard football star to Hollywood outcast, against all odds, the abused boy from the Texas oil fields made it to Harvard University. Not just as a student, as a football player. Tomy Lee Jones became an all-Ivy League offensive guard, protecting quarterbacks with the same intensity he used to protect himself as a child. His roommate was a young man named Al Gore, who would one day become Vice President of the United States. Classmates described Jones as a force of nature, intense, unusual, impossibly driven. He never took a single formal acting class, yet he starred in campus theater productions, often rushing straight from football practice, still wearing his cleats. The combination of raw talent and pure determination was undeniable. But when he arrived in Hollywood, the industry did not know what to do with him. His first significant role came in 1970 with a small part in the film Love Story. But instead of stardom, what followed was nearly 2 decades of struggle. To pay rent, Tomy Lee Jones spent 5 years on a daytime soap opera called One Life to Live, playing a character named Dr. Mark Toland. Day after day, he showed up on set, delivering lines for stories that would be forgotten by the next week. It was honest work, but it was not the career he had dreamed of. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, he cycled through forgettable films and television appearances. The roles kept coming, but the breakthrough never did. Hollywood saw him as a character actor at best, a supporting player, never the star. Then came 1993 and a film called The Fugitive. As U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard, Tomy Lee Jones finally showed the world what he was capable of. His relentless pursuit of Harrison Ford's character became iconic. The role earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. After 23 years of struggle, Tomy Lee Jones had finally arrived. But success in Hollywood often comes with a price. The very next year, Jones starred in a passion project called Cobb, playing baseball legend Ty Cobb. He had poured his heart into the role. He believed in the film deeply. It opened the same weekend as Jim Carrey's Dumb and Dumber. Cobb was a catastrophic failure. It grossed barely over $1 million against a budget of more than $25 million. The film that meant so much to Jones was crushed by a slapstick comedy. When Jones later worked with Jim Carrey on Batman Forever, something happened that would become Hollywood legend. According to Carrey himself, Jones approached him on set before their biggest scene together and said something that still stings decades later. "I hate you. I really don't like you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery." The director Joel Schumacher later said he was tired of defending overpaid, overprivileged actors. He prayed he would never have to work with Jones again. Was this the behavior of a difficult man? Or was it the pain of someone who had just watched his dream project get destroyed, lashing out at the person he blamed for its failure? Then comes 3 marriages and a pattern of escape. Tomy Lee Jones has been married 3 times. Each marriage tells a story about a man searching for something he could never quite find. His first wife was Kate Lardner, who came from Hollywood royalty. Her stepfather was Ring Lardner Jr., one of the blacklisted Hollywood 10 who went to prison for defying McCarthy-era investigators. They married in December 1971, while Jones was building his career on the New York stage. By 1978, the marriage was over. Jones has never publicly explained what happened. He simply does not talk about it. 3 years later, he met Kimberly Claughley on the set of a film called Back Roads. She was working as an extra. Her father would later become the mayor of San Antonio. They married in May 1981. This was the marriage that would produce Victoria. Tommy Lee and Kimberly had 2 children together. Their son Austin was born in 1982. Their daughter Victoria came along in 1991. For 15 years, the family lived on a cattle ranch in Texas, far away from the chaos of Hollywood. Jones wanted to raise his children away from celebrity culture. But the marriage eventually crumbled. The divorce filing cited a marriage that had become insupportable because of discord or conflict of personalities. Reports suggested that Jones had met another woman, Dawn Laurel, on the set of a film in 1994 or 1995, while he was still married to Kimberly. The divorce was finalized in March 1996. Victoria was just 4 years old. Think about that. A little girl, not even old enough for kindergarten, watching her family fall apart. Her father, the famous movie star, leaving, her mother fighting for sole custody. In 2001, Jones married Dawn Laurel, a film camera operator 18 years his junior. This marriage has lasted over 2 decades and appears to be his most stable relationship. But by the time he found happiness in his personal life, the damage to his relationship with Victoria may have already been done. Victoria briefly followed her father into acting. She appeared in Men in Black 2 as a child. She had a role in an episode of One Tree Hill in 2003. She even appeared in The 3 Burials of Melquiades Estrada, a film that her father directed in 2005. But then she stepped away from the spotlight. What happened in the years between her brief Hollywood career and that hotel hallway in San Francisco remains largely unknown. But the court records tell us enough. Something went terribly wrong in Victoria's life. And her father, despite all his fame and fortune, could not fix it. The grumpiest man in Hollywood. There is a moment that perfectly captures how the world sees Tommy Lee Jones. It happened at the 2013 Golden Globe Awards. The cameras cut to Jones during a comedy bit about his film Hope Springs. He had just lost the Best Supporting Actor award to Christoph Waltz. What the audience saw was a face that looked absolutely furious, stone-faced, scowling, completely unamused. Jones himself has admitted that he struggles with humor. In an interview, he said, "I really don't know much about comedy, and often don't really understand what is funny and what is not. Irony I have a pretty good grasp of, but not humor." This is a man who was physically abused as a child, who lost a baby brother, who watched his parents divorce twice, who has been through 3 marriages, who tried desperately to save his daughter and failed.
Maybe he does not find things funny because he has seen too much pain. Journalists universally describe interviewing Tommy Lee Jones as an ordeal. One GQ reporter was brought to tears during a 2-day visit to his ranch. Jones reportedly cracked walnuts with his bare hands while critiquing her questions and correcting her grammar. The Globe and Mail reported that journalists across North America blanch at his name and change the subject when he comes up. Roger Ebert observed that Jones seemed allergic to chit-chat and spoke only the simple truth in as few words as necessary. But Sally Field, who worked with him multiple times, offered a different perspective. He is who he is. I guess it comes off gruff. It is gruff. He's not looking to be liked, and he's not looking to be politically correct. And so he's just the absolute most honest, funny, direct thing. Perhaps the grumpiest man in Hollywood is not difficult at all. Perhaps he is simply a wounded soul who never learned how to pretend that everything is fine when it is not. Retreat to the ranch. Tommy Lee Jones has structured his entire life around one principle: stay away from Hollywood. He owns no home in Los Angeles. He goes there only when he absolutely has to. When the cameras stop rolling, he disappears back to Texas.
His sanctuary is a 3,000-acre cattle ranch in San Saba County, not far from where he was born. The family also owns ranches near Van Horn, Texas, a polo facility in Buenos Aires, and residences in Terrell Hills outside San Antonio. When asked about his daily life, Jones has described it in terms that sound almost like a dream. In the summers, we'll work cattle, and then at about 7 o'clock at night, we'll start playing polo. We'll play until about 9, and then when we're done, we put the meat on the fire and watch the dark come. It's a good life. Everyone is happy. When asked about visitors, his answer was telling. Oh no, the gates are locked. We keep it shut down. Just friends and family. No outsiders. Just how I like it. These are not the words of a man who simply prefers the country over the city. These are the words of a man who has spent his entire life building fortresses around himself. First as a child, escaping an abusive father. Then as a young man choosing to stay in America while his family moved to Libya. Now as an old man behind locked gates on thousands of acres of Texas land. At 79, Tomy Lee Jones has visibly aged. At a December 2023 premiere, observers described him as shockingly frail with sunken eyes. When his co-star Jenna Ortega reminded him they had filmed a scene together, social media speculated about possible memory issues. He continues to take occasional film roles. The Burial came out in 2023. He has other projects in development, but his output has slowed dramatically. And now, with Victoria gone, one has to wonder what keeps him going. What is left when the daughter you fought so hard to save is buried in the ground? Tomy Lee Jones has spent 8 decades accumulating what one film critic called hard experience. The past sits frustratingly inside him simultaneously. In the end, the worst pain came from inside those walls, from his own blood, from the daughter he loved and lost. What are your thoughts on these tragedies of Tomy Lee's life? Share in the comments.